Hi, Dr. Raj again. I'm doing a follow up on that interview I did with Hema some time back on infidelity. And the reason I'm doing that is a lot of persons have comments to make, and maybe they misinterpret sometimes what is being said. And infidelity is nothing to joke about. Infidelity is not something that you make into a game or you take it lightly. When we were discussing infidelity, we were discussing it in a particular way. When I talk about infidelity, sometimes I try to get individuals to think outside of the box and not just think about having an outside partner or think about horning their partner, their husband or their wives. Sometimes a person will ask me, should I horn my partner? And the immediate answer is always yes. But there's a follow up to that, there's an addendum to that. When I say yes, if you have that in mind, or if you think that you want to horn your partner, you will horn your partner, regardless of what anyone tells you. If you want to have a side chick or a side woman or a side man or whatever you want to have, you can do that. No one can stop you from that. But what you have to do is think about the consequences of doing something like that. What are the consequences of me having another person in my life interfering with my life, interfering with my time, interfering with the stability of my relationship? And how would my partner react to something like that? That is also an important factor. You have to understand your wife or your husband and how he or she would look at something like infidelity. Is it something that they take lightly? Is it something that they would not understand or they will be very angry about? What exactly are the options that you have? Think about it. There are some open marriages out there. There are marriages where a person would allow their partner to have someone else. And if you are in such a relationship, by all means, well, you know what you can do and what you cannot do. But yet still there are boundaries when it comes to all types of relationship, if it's an open relationship or if it's not an open relationship. Open relationship would sometimes mean that both partners could have an additional partner or could go outside of the marriage for sex or for enjoyment or for something that is they're unable to get in the marriage. Some persons join a swinger club, some persons go to parties, some person may have a partner that is kept a secret. So you have all these different ways of doing things, but is it right? Is it morally right? Is it something that you should be doing? I'm not here to answer that question. I'm here to deal with the issue of whether you want to do it or not. That's what I do. I try my best to make sure that whoever decides to do whatever they want to do get the best possible advice and also to help them to go along. If your partner finds out that you are in a relationship with someone else, how would he or she react? And if you are in a relationship with someone else and your partner decides to do the very same thing, how would you react? You have to think about that also. Would you like it if your partner is doing the very same thing that you're doing? Do we question ourselves about these things? Are you honest enough to say, hey, I like this for myself, but I wouldn't like it for my wife or I wouldn't like it for my husband. I would not like to know that they're doing such a thing. If it's purely sexual, if it's emotionally involved, what are the factors assigned to your relationship? You must be able to say those things. You must be able to say exactly how you feel, what you would allow, what you wouldn't allow, what are the parameters under which you operate, what are the things that are happening with you and your partners. Those are the very important factors. Don't just take it lightly and don't take it for granted. Don't think that if I do something like this and my partner do something like that, it is wrong for he or she to do it, but it's right for me to do it. You can't be that selfish. Don't ever be that selfish. So the minute you decide to step outside of your relationship, to have a relationship with someone else, expect that your spouse can do the very same thing and you should react the way that you want your spouse to react to you. Now that's a funny thing. If you want your spouse to be okay with you having an extramarital affair, by all means you should react the very same thing, very same way when you if and when you find out that he or she is doing something like that. So it's a tricky, very tricky question. Under normal circumstances, under normal head, as that's what I was going to say, you will say, yeah, I will be okay with it. But if it does not happen to you directly, you don't know the impact it's going to have on your emotions, the impact it's going to have on you physically, the impact it's going to have on you when it comes to even looking at your spouse. How do you know how you're going to react, and how do you know what you're going to like and what you're not going to like? So you see how difficult it could be. So don't just assume that if I say I'm okay with it, I am going to be okay with it. When you are faced with the actual fact that, hey, my partner has someone else, that may be a totally different scenario for you to deal with. And when we have to deal with these scenarios in our lives, sometimes we react violently. Sometimes we react without thinking. Sometimes we don't stop to think, well, how would I want that person to feel if I was doing the very same thing? Sometimes you don't discuss it and you get into a fight, physical, emotional, or a quarrel. So you have to understand, and you have to have your moralities, and you have to have your way of life and how you want to live your life. You must be okay with the things that you want to do and not be okay with the things that that someone else does. If you have to have an open mind about things, it can't be an open mind for you alone, but it must be an open mind for everything and everyone. That's why being a sexologist is sometimes when you describe it to individuals, they can't understand it because we operate with a very open playing field, and these are the real sexologists. There are persons out there who claim to be sexologists. There are individuals who claim to know things and deal with things in a particular manner, but they're not. They are not. They may be grounded in religion. They may be grounded in the medical field. And if they are grounded in those fields, they may not be able to react the way a sexologist will react, in a very open-minded and very understanding way, because we look at society in a holistic way, looking at all the things that persons would like to do, understand their sexuality, their behavior, the things that they may want to experience in life. Those are the things that we look at. We look at reality, as a matter of fact. We don't look at a false sense of self or morality, and how people put themselves in a bubble and say, this could never happen to me, and I will never do this, and I think it's nasty that somebody's doing this, and it's immoral. We don't use those words. The very same way we don't use the word perverted and derogatory words to describe someone's sexuality and their sexual behavior. We are very open-minded when it comes to these things. So you have to understand that when individuals talk about things, they may talk about it based on their morality, based on what they see as right and wrong, and not have an open mind on what is happening to the individual and why it's happening. Now, there are excuses for everything. There are excuses for everything, and if you want to find an excuse for whatever you're doing, you will find the excuse. But does that make it right? Those are the questions you have to ask. And if it makes it right for me, does it make it right for my spouse? Because if you're saying you have a special situation in your relationship that allows you to do that, or that gives you the excuse to do it, doesn't your spouse have the same excuse? Think about it. Think about how you would deal with these things if you're confronted with it. If you find out that your partner is involved in something, don't fly off on a tangent. Don't get angry right away. You are hurt, yes, I know that, and sometimes you'll want to lash out, but don't. Stop and think. Ask the person about things. Now, one of the things that happens when you start discussing these things is a person tends to lie. If you start to lie and you continue lying, what's going to happen is that you're going to dig a bigger hole for yourself, because the person will not trust you. If you start being honest and you start saying exactly how you feel and what's happening, maybe it will work out differently. Maybe you may misinterpret your spouse's reaction, or maybe you may misjudge the person on how they will react to something. I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. You and your partner will have the answer for how you deal with the issue. And dealing with the issue is very important. So when we talk about the percentage of men and women who have an extramarital affair, this is the percentage that we know of. What about the underlying factor of those we don't know about? Those are the questions we have to ask ourselves. So, until my next broadcast, thank you for listening.